Our FoundHER program is an application-based program that's semesterly, and it's a program here at WELI that's open to anyone who's a part of the UT Austin ecosystem. So whether you're an undergrad, a grad student, staff or faculty, or an alumni, you are welcome to apply. And the FoundHER program spotlights, equips, and empowers entrepreneurs. And when you join the FoundHER program, we help you take your business to the next level. All right, well, I will kick it off. And I want to hear from each of you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, y'all. My name is Ramya, and I am a sophomore here at UT Austin, the Business Honors Program. And I'm currently working on Athena edtech. We're creating personalized AI tutors for middle school and high schoolers.
Hi, my name is Aayushi Mehta. I'm a senior here at UT. I'm studying human development and family sciences and marketing. And I founded Project Yellow, which is a mental health organization that implements mental health curriculum into the lives of elementary schoolers through in-person school volunteering and a website that we're building.
Thank you both for sharing. So we'll start by just asking, how has strong branding made an impact on the success of your business?
Great question. So we are a tech startup that's in very early stages, so we have a prototype. We're currently experimenting with different hypotheses and with different technologies. I mean, yesterday, OpenAI, was it 2 days ago now, had its dev day, which changed everything in terms of the technologies available to create personalized tutors. Now there's a whole GPT store where we can create GPTs like the App Store. And so it's insane. Anyways, back to branding. The reason it's so important is because, especially when you're in the early stages, the way you form partnerships, the way you recruit your initial employees, the way you can find mentors who can help you get to that next level, it's all through the brand, you know, if they actually find you in some way. And so I found that through posting on LinkedIn, and it can be, you have to get over a mental block in order to really put yourself out there, but you just have to get comfortable doing it, and once you do, people will start to contact you, and it'll really help your business.
I think branding is one of the most important things that a business can do. So personally for Project Yellow, when I first started, I was really scared, like there's a stigma behind mental health and like who's actually going to support it. But when branding it, I made sure to really tell the story. And the story is that like almost all of us like go through something, but we weren't given like the support when we were kids. And I think when I started and put the thing up, I was so scared to see who's going to react. But saying the story and putting that brand of like the compassionate, like the kind of needs that you have, so many people attracted to it. So I think it's one of the most important things, like she said, to really get people to join the cause and to build that team community.
Can you each share how you define a successful brand strategy? Are there certain metrics that you use to measure its effectiveness?
Again, another really great thought-provoking question. I think that brand strategy is, you know, as most things are, you can both qualitatively and quantitatively evaluate it through metrics. And so you can use quantitative metrics, but at the end of the day, sometimes you'll lose sight of what really matters. Your branding is really important because that is how you're represented. And so whenever people think of the word Athena, whenever people look at your social media profile, when they search you up, what do they see that defines your brand? And at the end of the day, Shauna, I need you to repeat that question again because I could go on forever.
How do you define a successful brand strategy, and what metrics do you use to measure its effectiveness?
Metrics can get tricky because you're not going to get to the metrics you want on day one. And so first you need to use internal metrics, which is what are you actually putting into growing your brand? How many posts are you making? And then you can use long-term metrics. So for example, you can look at what happened from growth in month 1 to growth in month 2. But at the same time, there are things about your brand that can't be quantitatively evaluated per se. And for example, people commenting or reviewing your product saying, I absolutely love this, I'm going to tell the person next to me. Or this is how your product makes me feel, this is how your story makes me feel, and that's arguably more important and will lead to later growth, quantitative growth down the line. And so initially, when you start your branding, you have to do a lot more inner work and qualitative work and make sure that what you're doing leads to long-term quantitative success. Don't obsess about the metrics initially. It's really important to be authentic, and whatever you put out there, it's going to stay out there, so don't do anything gimmicky for short-term quantitative metrics.
Yeah, I love everything that you said, and I agree with everything. I think, just to emphasize some points, I think the qualitative, personally, I think that matters a lot for me, where it's like, if I ask someone, like, what is Project Yellow? If they understand the mission behind it, then that is, I think, like the best metric. And I think another thing is impact. Are you able to do what your goal of the brand is? Or, like, because you can have a beautiful brand, but is the message, the story, the impact, is that happening? I think that's, like, the biggest way that I would evaluate.
I love that. Can you each share about a brand that you admire, and what's so special about this brand to you? Why do you admire it?
Yeah, I think this is a tricky question for me because there's not just one brand, there's hundreds of brands out there that I really admire. I think there's different things that I look for in a brand, so I think the biggest thing for me personally is the brand making a social impact? Are they making a difference with like what they have? That's the first way I do it. Second is like the appearance of the brand. I think that's really important, how they're putting out the story, what's the story behind it. And I think some brands that I really like, I think Kendra Scott, like we're all here. For me, like I didn't even know about this like 2 years ago, but the fact that Kendra Scott is doing so much to empower female leaders, that's like so important. So brands like this, and then I think Poppy, if you guys check out their Instagram, they have great marketing, they're like, all their products, they're amazing. And then I also heard, I think, yeah, those are two brands that I really admire.
Yeah, completely agree with Aayushi. I would say it's really hard to pinpoint one specific brand that you really love, but what comes to mind for me is Apple, just because Apple is the pinnacle of whenever they teach you branding and whenever they teach you how you're supposed to market things. They always play, I think it's 2005 Steve Jobs release of one of the products, I forget, because the message in itself is so important. And basically, there was a revolution in marketing during that time where people started to realize the most important thing about your brand is not even what the product is, it's how you make people feel and what associations are created with your brand. So for example, with Kendra Scott from now on, we will always think of seeing Kendra Scott, the KSL Institute, how we're empowering student leaders. And so that's the association that's triggered.
I think another one, I forgot, the third thing that I look for is personalization. I think that's like a really important thing in a brand. And I think when companies like really like make an effort to make you feel heard. Today, in one of our classes, we had Wendy's come and speak, and I think they were talking about how like they treat their customers like friends, and so it's like, let's go get lunch together. I think like that's a really good perspective with your social media and whatever you do, you're like thinking of your customers and you're like really trying to make them feel heard and seen. I think that's one of the most important things I've read as well.
I loved all those examples. And Wendy's has a really interesting social media presence too.
Yeah.
All right, so recently, a brand that I admire is a cookie dough brand called Dough, D-E-U-X. They did a partnership with Skinny Confidential. They did a partnership recently with Them Chamberlain, and they have like healthy cookie dough, but it's like very chic and cool and pink. Have you ever done any brand partnerships? And if so, can you share your experience? And if you haven't done any brand partnerships yet, what are a brand or two that you would want to partner with in the future?
So actually, yes, I'm really excited about one upcoming brand partnership, and I want to call it, I've done a couple of partnerships. Right now, I'm not sure I can say particularly for Athena that we've done a brand partnership per se, because it is more of a marketing partnership than a brand partnership. I think a brand partnership goes deeper than a simple partnership. And so I am doing a brand partnership soon, and I'll just tell you a little bit more background. Basically, there is this neuroscientist named Andrew Huberman who has a podcast. He's a professor at Stanford in neurobiology, and he has some really great podcasts out there. He's one of the best health and fitness podcasters. And a lot of his work is not condensed into a written format. And so I was working on this thing called the Huberman Act, the Almanac of Andrew Huberman. And recently met with a founder from UC Berkeley who's working on the startup called Basis Health. And basically, he created this thing called Brian Johnson, another very interesting entrepreneur, is creating this blueprint formula for meals that are standardized, that are anti-aging almost. And so Basis Health basically creates these meals and now is selling in San Francisco and is going to expand to New York. And we connected, and then I'm going to possibly be helping them with the expansion to Austin. And there's going to be a partnership there in terms of partnering the Huberman Act with a new almanac of Brian Johnson alongside expanding Basis Health. And basically the takeaway from that is whenever you want to have a brand partnership, the way you find that is through putting yourself out there, usually through social media. Because even though it might be scary to put yourself out there, talk about what you're doing, and it might at times feel like, why am I posting about what I'm doing? This feels, like I'm trying to boast. The truth is, unless you post about what you're doing, people won't find you, and then you won't make those connections on LinkedIn. And so now moving forward, there is going to be that partnership with me helping them and possible revenue share depending on how involved I am. And so that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for me posting on LinkedIn about the Andrew Huberman thing and connecting with him.
I really love what you said about the difference between a marketing partnership and a brand partnership. I honestly never even thought about that before, and I think that's so important. And I think for me, now that you said that, I think I've had like a few different marketing partnerships, so I haven't had a brand partnership, but I hope to get that in the future. But I'll talk about two experiences I had. So the first experience I had was with Insomnia Cookies, and that's when I first started like this organization. I was a leader in a couple of different organizations, and I think it's so important to partner with these companies because they really need us. Like us as all of us as college students, like we have these like fresh perspectives, this mind, this passion, this drive, and they actually really, really want us. So I walked into Insomnia very confident and scared, but I kind of put on a confident front. And I was like, I want to have a partnership with you. This is what I'll provide. And even though it was really scary, they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you. And for any event, like we'll give you 100 free Insomnia cookies. Just reach out to us. So it was amazing, and it really taught me like if you want to do something, no matter what the brand is, just go and ask. And it's really scary, but sometimes like fake it till you feel it. And after that, I may have walked in kind of feeling like a little nervous, but I walked out feeling like so confident because it was such an easy thing. So you just have to sometimes take that risk and ask. And I was a freshman at this time as well. Another different partnership experience I had was with Hi, How Are You? So I don't know if you guys have seen like the frog. It's like it's not like we walk like past Target area, there's like a frog. So I didn't know, but they're actually a huge mental health organization, and they reached out to me a few months ago, and they asked for a partnership. And I got on a call with them, and they were talking about some of their other partners, and they have 16 million followers on Instagram, and these they had these huge partnerships like Olympic runners and like all these things. And so when they reached out, I had like a lot of imposter syndrome, and I was really nervous. And I was like, should I even accept this? Like, they want me to make a video for them. I don't have this much experience and all that. But I said yes to it, and it was so helpful for them because they got all these college students to learn about who they are. And it was also beneficial for us because we got our name out there in like a different way. So I think the biggest takeaway is no matter what, don't feel like you're not. Don't get scared, don't get the imposter syndrome, just be confident, put yourself out there, and the worst that can happen is that you're at the same place where you were before, but the best that can happen is that you can get this big partnership. I think it's so important to businesses because as you're starting a new business, they have all these experience and this insight that they can provide you as well too. And just today, I emailed someone, or I LinkedIn messaged someone a few hours ago, because they had like an AI mental health bot. And I was thinking of doing that for Project Yellow, but I was like, if someone already has this, the best way to go about this is that we can do a partnership and grow that together, kind of, and work together and use our strengths.
Wow, okay, let's give it up for Aayushi, that's incredible. So cool. I want some Ramya cookies. Our next guy.
I got you.
I want to hear from each of you. Have you ever needed to adapt a new brand strategy or go through a rebrand? And if so, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think especially in early stages, like don't be scared to do rebrands. So for our Instagram, if you guys go to Project Yellow Texas, you guys will scroll and see at the bottom we were a completely different brand, and then 6 months or like a year later, like not completely different brand, but like different branding. Then 6 months later, we did new branding, and we just keep testing it out. And we're still not even at the point where we're 100% there, but I think rebranding and pivoting in that sense, if something isn't working or if you don't love something, you can always change it. You have that power. So I think, yeah, we've done it a few times, and I would definitely recommend until you find something that you're 100% confident about. Just keep trying different things and see what the response is, get feedback, and just be totally open to it.
I really love that. And so I think Aayushi spoke a little bit about company branding, and so I'd like to take a minute to talk about personal branding and how you can do kind of a personal rebrand. And so I want each of y'all to start thinking of yourself as a brand. So regardless of whether you have a company right now or not, you yourself are a living, breathing brand. And so the way you interact with people day to day, in general, how you show up to people, what people associate with you is a brand in itself. And so I think you should think about rebranding yourself in general. So always be open to, is whatever I'm doing, as you're figuring out, okay, what exactly do I want to do in life? Do I want to do entrepreneurship? What do I want to do? Always be thinking of yourself as a brand, and maybe right now the brand is, I'm in exploration mode, and then later on it will change. The way that I've kind of thought about branding is, first and foremost, if you're going to operate in more of a risky venture space, so the tech space, the AI space, especially in edtech, in the early stages, it's not even about your product, it's about who you are. And so this is one of the reasons personal brand becomes really important, because everything about you is what people will evaluate when investing in your venture, or more than that. And so personally, I have, in a sense, undergone a rebrand, because in high school, I was very much into politics and knew I was going to go into political office or run for office in the future. But then going into college, I knew that I didn't necessarily want to run for office straight out of college, that I wanted to do something else before entering. And so then I stumbled upon entrepreneurship, and I was like, okay, I am just unsure where to start, because I know I want to make a large amount of impact, and I just don't know how to go about that. And that's when I started realizing, as the internet becomes increasingly more popular, it might not feel like it right now, it might feel like, oh, it's been years, it's been forever. More and more people are getting on the internet in different places in the world. And so in the past, it was primarily the US and a couple of other countries, now it's much more. I started realizing you need to start posting about your journey and your story and your ambitions, and that's how people will start to find you. And so I branded myself just a few weeks ago, I think, a few weeks ago or a few months ago, I forget, starting this thing called an Impact Billionaire Challenge to impact 1 billion people in 10 years, which is an insane stretch goal, but that's kind of the point. And so basically in my YouTube channel, I started documenting my journey, and my LinkedIn posts, that's what I do. And I, again, can't say this is a successful brand strategy yet, but I believe it will be in 10 years from now, when things have grown.
That is an awesome goal. Wow, I love that.
I still haven't found like the best customer, but I think the best customer branding, but I think the best way to go about it is like look at what other people are doing, look at what the needs of your customer are, and like I said, try different things. So for us, I feel like as a mental health organization for little kids, we have to brand towards kids kids. So if you look at our Instagram, if you look at our website, it's very kid-centric. But then for different platforms, we've had to do different things. So for parents, and when we start working on LinkedIn and Facebook, we're gonna have to have a completely different brand method. So I think like thinking into that account, it's so important because at the end of the day, a brand can't be just something, like it has to, like the branding that you do has to represent what the mission, the cause, and your customers are. So having something pretty is always nice, but I think make sure that it ties back and you show that off in your branding, whatever the story and the mission is.
I love what Aayushi said, because one thing to know is anytime you create a brand, you have to think about the user. And so having a kid-friendly brand is going to be really important for Project Yellow, for example. And so for us, we are still in the experimental phase of finding our best customer, as we currently have high schoolers and middle schoolers and a variety of different subjects we're working with for creating personal tutors. And so we are constantly talking with tutoring centers, teachers, instructional design experts, and parents and students. And so it's just really an ongoing process. We still haven't found our best customer yet, but once we do, that will be because, we found, okay, this is the person who is using our GPT on the GPT store the most, who's using our web app the most. And so, right now it's actually a very iterative process, and we're still figuring it out, but really the key is to talk to a lot of your customers and just not stop until you find them.
Another thing I wanted to say really fast is that a few days ago I pitched at like a tech, like a women in tech event, and my branding is very kid. Like you see like a little like yellow mascot and you see colors everywhere, and I was really scared because I was like, this branding, it's not gonna resonate, like connect with like a lot of these older people, and maybe it won't, but I think the people that I needed to connect with, it did. I think remembering that and staying true to what your brand is really, really important as well, because maybe like a 6-year-old guy is not going to be like super connected to it, but there is someone out there that's going to see that, and it's going to remind them, and it's going to like make them feel happy or remind them of their inner child, and that's what like the purpose of it is.
And I was in that room and I remember it did really resonate with someone. She was like, I love this yellow. So what is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's starting or developing a new brand?
I think don't be scared. I think Ramya is like an amazing example of this. If you look at her LinkedIn, she posts everything she does. That's the thing that I really want to do. I think like, especially as women, we get scared of like sharing our accomplishments or like that kind of stuff, because like unfortunately there is a lot of like people that might say things, and like there is a lot of like fear in that sense, but don't be scared, because whatever you're doing is amazing. Remember that and be proud of it and show it off. And I think that's like a big lesson that I've had to learn, is to like, don't be scared to post that you're like speaking on a panel. At first I was like, should I post it on my Instagram story? But no, like I want to show it off because you worked hard, and also you're inspiring someone out there by like doing these things. So don't be scared, use it. And like I think also, like Ramya said, like it doesn't matter if you don't have your own company or anything like that, but build that personal brand, and whatever you want to show about yourself, make sure that you are telling people and showing people that.
I love what Aayushi was saying, and actually back there we were talking and she was like, I love what you're doing on LinkedIn, and I was like, you are? Because I'm so embarrassed all the time, 24/7. And so I do want to say one thing Aayushi said is don't be scared. If you feel scared about putting yourself out there, posting on LinkedIn, or just generally building a brand for what you're doing, your personal brand, know that you don't have to not be scared. I mean, it's okay to be scared. It's normal to be scared to put yourself out there, and you should do it no matter how you feel, because this is going to be different for every single person. The first time I posted saying, okay, I'm working on a challenge where I'm going to try to impact 1 billion people in 10 years, I didn't feel anything. I was like, this is fun. 3 months in right now, I'm like, if I actually don't impact, take the steps and like impact hopefully close to 1 billion people, that will be quite publicly embarrassing. And so that's when it was like, wow, yeah, this is something that I really am excited towards, and I'm excited, but I also have to deal with the fear, and that is perfectly okay. And And so it's okay to feel scared. It's just pushing and posting even when you don't feel ready, because that's the only way to actually start taking the steps to accomplish that stretch goal.
Yeah, I think like what I said earlier, fake it till you feel it, that's like my life. That's one of my life mottos. I think also everything happens for a reason, so no matter what happens, just remember it's all gonna work out. And then also don't be scared, just do it, honestly. That's like in the next few months, make it a goal that you're gonna do something for your personal branding. And it doesn't have to be even posting online, but even writing something for yourself and making that brand for yourself, building that confidence in that way. I started with like, I was bullied as a kid and I wasn't very confident a few years ago, but I started with building affirmations and building that brand in myself in my own mind and saying, I am loved, I am worthy, I am hardworking. And then you can like slowly do like little steps. So you don't have to go all the way, like do like build a website or go like scream into the world. You can do that, but you can also just start with like doing things for yourself, doing things with your friends, family, and then just take it step by step.
Wow. I love that advice. You also both answered my next question without realizing it. And that question was, for those in the audience that are not currently working in branding, what are ways that we can strengthen our personal brands? What do you need to focus on to do so? Well, one of the thoughts that I had was I'm currently building my own personal brand, and sometimes I have that imposter syndrome or that feeling of like, who cares? Who wants to see this? Like, why am I sharing this? And something that really helps me is reminding myself that I want to share it. I can share whatever I want to share. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks. And someone who's watching might actually be inspired by what I'm doing. I might be the one that inspires someone to start their own business or to make that move to live the life of their dreams. And so I think that's kind of the flip side of it, is thinking about it as like, okay, well, maybe I'm actually helping someone by doing this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that's like so important. I think being your #1 fan. I think I do my Instagram story more than like all the viewers who are there. Or like I watch my own content and I'm like, wow, that's good. So you have to remember to be your biggest fan.
I love that. And yes, when it comes to building your personal brand, it's not just about posting on social media. It's about understanding yourself and who you are and who your values are. Because more than anything else, most of us, whenever we're making decisions, we don't really think automatically, okay, does this align with my values? And the reason behind that is for 90% of what we do is on autopilot, and it's only when we sit down, we be intentional, we figure out, okay, who is the meanest me? Like, who am I? My most authentic self. What makes me happy? Reflecting on that will get you farther than anything else, just because you need to first understand yourself and who you are, what makes you happy, what you will be the most successful and happiest in, because it's only when you create your own definition of success that you'll start to understand, okay, these are the next steps I need to take for myself. And when I was thinking about what classes to take, what major to choose, or what job to take, you first have to understand yourself and who you are. And at the end of the day, a brand is nothing more than just you appearing as you. And so you first have to figure out who you are before you can do any of that.
One last thing. I think we're giving like a lot of advice. I think some like actionable steps that you can do would be like connecting with a bunch of people on LinkedIn. I think if you would feel comfortable becoming public on Instagram, that's what I initially did when I started Project Yellow, becoming public, following a lot of people at UT, and I think putting your name out there, you can, whenever you like, if you build an organization, a product, company, whatever it is, table on campus, so just put your name out there and start with that when you're trying to build your brand, and slowly people will like learn more and reach out to you. But I think at first we have to do those initial steps. Also like going to a lot of like networking events and things like that. So push yourself outside of your comfort zone and just be as public as possible, which is scary, but for a brand, I think that's really important.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to your personal brand is your reputation. It's how you show up for people. It's also what you're wearing. You know, you can embrace your personal brand by how you get dressed every day. That is you building your personal brand on a daily basis. All right, so Aayushi, as a Macomb marketing student, you know that customer engagement and brand loyalty are vital. What are some strategies brands have employed to create a loyal customer base and how to maintain it over time?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that brands do to kind of maintain that customer base is personalization. So I think like some strategies that can be done is when you send an email out, making sure, even if it's like an email to a lot of people, you can use like different companies out there. I think there's, I forgot what it's called, something monkey, but or some email like MailChimp. Okay, it's not monkey, I'm so sorry.
It's monkey.
But I think like using like different things like that, making things very personal, so you can like say someone's name. If you're LinkedIn messaging, like put their name and make it very personal. And I think like I said, I mentioned this earlier, but trying to make the content very personal. I think when you're making content, make sure that it fits your customer base, and remembering at the end of the day that like make customer personas. So that's something that we did in like one of my classes, where we had literally made like a person. So like let's say for Project Yellow, one of our target audiences is like a parent. We would do like Mom Chelsea, and then we would do like these are the things. She has 5 kids, she doesn't know how to speak to them, and then just make a full persona. Then when you market, remember these personas, where there's this mom, there's this teacher who's like struggling to read content with the kids, there's an administrator who's super passionate. So like just like that, create different personas and then do it towards them.
And Ramya, while working in the tech space, how do you see the future of branding evolving, considering technological advancements and changing consumer behaviors?
First, I think I need to preface this by saying everything is changing on such a daily basis that everything I say will be at most valid for maybe a year. A week, which is basically a year in this space at this point. I think one thing that will stay the same for an extended period of time, or for infinity, for as long as humans exist, is that humans really love real, authentic humans. We generally always like the same things. We have some core values and pillars that we're really drawn to throughout history. We really love honesty, integrity, positivity. Someone who really wants to help others. We really want the future is all about things like sustainability, mental health. In the past, these were stigmatized, but moving forward, that will be important because in general, there's always that push towards things that are real, authentic, and human. And so while we're moving forward in the tech and AI space, technology is increasingly becoming easier to use. So now you can create an app just by saying, okay, I want you to build an app with XYZ features. We're not that far away from being able to actually maybe deploy an app on the App Store or create something that is almost like an app on a web app within a day without even coding. And so we're really at a really, really revolutionary point in terms of technology. Things are going to be really easy to build, and that's when it becomes increasingly important to empathize with others and understand what their problems are, because now it's all going to be about the user experience. Who is building things that solve problems people face? And I think that everyone in this room is probably going to be really good at empathizing and understanding the other person. And that kind of empathy is, I think, what's going to take you to the next level in this evolving technological space.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing all about brand strategies and personal branding strategies that have worked for both of you. Now I want to open it up to the audience to see if anyone has any questions for either of these lovely ladies.
Aayushi, you keep saying fake it until you feel it. I've never heard that word. I hear fake it until you make it. So what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Actually, it's a very good question. I don't know. I've done that since freshman year of high school. My coach used to say it, but I think it's more like fake it till you feel it. So if you go into a room and you're not feeling that confident, say I am confident. A lot of affirmations say I am confident, and just pretend like you are. Put this mindset. Just be like you're yes, I am gonna get this interview, or I am gonna get this. And go in with that energy, even if mentally, even if you don't feel like you may not be the strongest person in the room or the strongest candidate for something, but act like you are. And I think the more you act like it, the more you tell yourself that, it goes into you feeling it. I'm also just a huge advocate for affirmations. When when I was younger, my mom, I didn't feel the most confident in myself. My mom told me to like look in the mirror and tell myself like, you are beautiful, you're amazing, you're loved. And when she told me that, I literally was like, that's so silly, I'm not gonna do that. But then I went into my mirror and I was like, I didn't tell her this until years later, but I slowly started to do it. And I think that was in a way kind of faking it, so I felt like telling myself. I was like, even though at the moment I may not have been feeling it, but the more I kind of put in that, like looking in the mirror and told myself that, it really did work. So I would recommend if any of you guys are feeling anything, like if any obstacle happens, even I use this like if I don't do the best on a test, or if a guy rejects me, like I write down either these affirmations or I like say it into a thing and just remind myself. Yeah.
Yes.
What is the best way that you find to market yourself while still being honest to your brand?
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. What is the best way to market yourself while still being honest to your brand?
Yeah, I think that's a hard question because I feel like they both go like hand in hand for my brand and myself. Like they're very aligned. I think it goes down to like for me like with like mental health. Like sometimes I feel like really scared about posting something because like once again there's that stigma and I'm scared. Like at first I'd be like, oh, like are people gonna think like I'm just always talking about stuff like that. But I think like it kind of goes hand in hand where I had to be authentic and to build that brand. I had to post a lot of like really serious content. But at the end of the day, it's like now I like love doing that because like people like with like that connection, like people that need to hear those things when I post something like a simple, like if there's something on mental health code, I post it, people get very connected to it. And I think even if no one else is doing that, there needs someone to do that because I feel like, so I guess I hope that kind of answers the question.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, and that's a really great question. I think it highlights a misconception we might have about branding and marketing, which is that in order to market, you need to be dishonest. Because actually the best marketing is, and the most effective marketing is when you are being completely honest. And so when it comes to, for example, if you're running a business and you have a product, well, the best marketing is going to be honest. And so the best marketing happens when you have a really good product. And so there is a stepping stone of first you need to create a really great product and then the marketing will come really easy because all you're doing is telling people, hey, I created this and it will solve XYZ problem for you. And if you are solving the right problem and the product is really great, then not marketing it is inherently bad for them because this will improve their lives so much. And so that's a really great question. And that's something I want every one of y'all to understand, that sales and marketing is actually not about anything that's like snaky. It sometimes feels like it is. It's actually just about improving people's lives through telling them the truth about the product. And you always want to make sure the product is really good.
All right, thank you.
There can be some snaky sales and marketing and sort of stuff there, but yes, we want to avoid that. Yes.
I heard about Project Yellow. You started it when you were a freshman, and now you're a senior. What's the future going to look like? Really, what are your goals to continue on?
Yeah, so when I started it, so how it kind of is that we started with the college chapter, so we got some people that were interested in it, and I wanted to see if it was successful or not. Now we have a college chapter of 150 volunteers, and it was really hard, but a few months ago, I let a new team of officers kind of take over Project Yellow. So I guess next steps, I'm working to build the website. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Khan Academy, but it's kind of like that. So bringing the modules on a website where there's quizzes, games, and different activities so it can be accessible to all. And then I'm just working to scale it. So working with different colleges and universities to build chapters for them, going to events like this, being a founder this semester, and so first, I guess, is to test it out and see that it works, and after you say test work, just focus on how can you get your mission out there and impact more people. So my hopes is that in the next 2 to 3 years, there will be 4 or 5 more college chapters. Our website will be done, so that will be accessible. And then also summer camps. So if a kid is going through a hard time, providing them an area where they can go and do things, mental health, the way that Project Yellow looks at it is very preventative. So I'm a huge advocate for therapy and medicine, but I think a lot of things, if we do preventative care, if we were taught who to reach out to in early stages, then doing that. And then I would also, like, I'm just going on, there's so many ideas, but I'd also love to create a facility where kids can go and have that safe space for them, because a lot of the facilities that are out there are very gloomy and like, it's very like prison-like, and I would love to create an area where it's very vibrant and have like fun activities, and that can really change their mental health and hopefully improve it for the better.
Wow, that is amazing. Yes.
Do y'all have a schedule for posting on social media, or how often do y'all post?
Yeah, I think for Project Yellow, that's always been the goal. That's always been the goal. I think it's really hard because we have the college students, and so even though like the aim is to have a schedule, I would definitely recommend a schedule, but sometimes it's not, it doesn't work out that way because we have exams on days and things like that. So I think when you're a college student, especially, just being flexible, that it's okay if you don't want to schedule. Maybe one week you'll post a lot more, one week you won't. So being okay with that, but I would definitely recommend a schedule as well. And I recommend posting as much on like different platforms that your target customer base is involved in.
Yeah, it depends on the platform. For LinkedIn, I take a very storytelling approach, and so post around maybe 3 times a week, depending on the week. I think that's the average. Sometimes it's 5 days in a week, sometimes it's just twice. And then on YouTube, it's weekly most of the time. Sometimes it's a little more, a little less.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions before we wrap this up? All right, well,